So for this worksheet, it's called Ionic Compounds. We all know what ionic compounds are, okay? It's a metal and a non-metal. You can call it a positive with a negative. You can call it a cation with an anion. They're all the same thing. The two bonds we've been learning is covalent and ionic. Does ionic bonds share their electrons, or do they take the electrons? They take the electrons. They transfer. Good job. So what we're learning to do is we're going to give the name, and then we're going to write it. So I'm going to read the top paragraph. When a metal and a non-metal combine, an ionic compound is formed. The metal atom loses the electrons, forming a positive cation. Because when you give away electrons, which are negative, you're becoming more positive. The non-metal atom gains one or more electrons, forming negative. If you gain electrons, you're gaining more negativity, so you get negative. Because these ions have opposite electrical charges, they attract each other and form a compound. This attraction is called an ionic bond. The atoms combine in a ratio such that the number of electrons lost have to equal the number of electrons gained. So the sum of the charges on the ions equals 0. So let's walk through what that means. Okay, so they give us the formula MgCl2. I'll make it bigger. The charge of Mg is what? Anyone? Okay, it's +2. But what's the charge of chlorine? It's -1. So chlorine really is -1. And I'm just writing it here so you can see it. So if the charges need to cancel, that's really what you need to understand. The charges need to cancel. So therefore, that's why there's 2 chlorines. So now the total charge for this side, for magnesium, is +2. And the total charge for chlorine is -2. Do you see that? So that's why there's 2 chlorines. It says the final step in this method is to make sure the subscripts are expressed in their lowest ratio. So we are going to start with NaCl. Na is sodium. Cl is chlorine, but when you write ionic compounds, they're all going to end in IDE. So it's sodium chloride. And this part, what I did right here, is really for... Oh, no, that's right. Name formulas. For the name, these are already, you see how there's tiny subscripts there? So they already did the butterfly thing. We just need to write the name. So I just did extra work here. You don't have to do that for the remainder of them. Well, so we're only writing the name. So
1 through 5 and
from 1 through 12, you do that.
Oh, yeah.
And then when we get to 13 to 24, that's when we do the butterfly method. I'll just write butterfly 13 through 24. So Al, what formula is Al? Aluminum. And what is fluorine? Oops, which is F? Fluorine, so you'd write fluoride. Okay. There are little subscripts here. If I zoom in. Okay, you can see there's subscripts there that K has a 2. Right here that I has a 2. In ionic bonds, those don't play a role. So you're not going to put aluminum 4 fluoride. Okay, just write it how you see it. Let's go to this side. Anybody have questions on how to write them? Okay, they're all going to end in IDE. Writing the formulas, that's the butterfly. Okay, let me see if I have a black pen. There we go. Magnesium is Mg, and the charge at Mg is +2. Chloride, which is chlorine, is -1. Okay. So when we rewrite it, this goes there, and this goes there. So Mg, what number does Mg get?
1.
Just 1. Well, we don't have to write the ones, because just by writing Mg tells you there's 1 magnesium, right? You see Mg, you're like, okay, there's magnesium. But then what number does chlorine get? 2. So see how the 2 was connected to the Mg, the -1 was connected to the chlorine. They switch places. So the 2 goes with the chlorine and the 1 goes with the Mg. Whenever there's 1s, you don't have to write them, and then you also don't have to write negative or positive signs. I'll go ahead and do one more with you. Lithium. And the charge of lithium is +1. And oxide is for oxygen, which is -2. Okay, go ahead and write down what you think it's going to be. I'll give you 5 seconds, and then I'll write down what it should be and see if your answer matches.
Do you carry the negatives over to no? Just the thank you.
Again, you don't have to carry over the negative or positives. They're just switching places. Li2 and O. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, is there anything on the back? And those are just more notes on the back. Okay, this worksheet needs to be turned in by the end of the period today. If you have any questions, you can come and see me.